Hey guys, Heather Travar here, your law school lawyer. Today's question is, what value proposition, if any, does an unaccredited law school have? Well, I can tell you unaccredited law schools hold two main value propositions, but they come with serious disadvantages. So let's hash it out so you can make an informed decision about your law school choice. The first major value proposition is money. My alma mater, Cumberland Law School, is coming in at around $40,000 a year right now. Birmingham School of Law, an unaccredited law school, is around $6,000 a year for their part-time program. But let's compare apples to apples. Most people who go to an unaccredited law school will choose a part-time program spread out over 5 or 6 years. But eventually, you're doing the equivalent of full-time work. So let's say it's $12,000 a year instead of just $6,000. All right, would you rather pay $12,000 a year or $40,000? Obviously, you'd rather pay $12,000. And if you're not sure, watch my video on student loan debt. Okay, the reason it's so cheap though is they're not accredited. Anyone who's been through the accreditation process knows it's taxing and time-consuming and expensive. So that's where you get your cost savings break. But what does this mean? What does it really mean to be unaccredited, practically speaking? Well, it means, for one thing, you don't have a lot of protection that the ABA gives you. This protection means you've got uniform rules about the quality of your education, the quality of facilities, including, importantly, the library, and including you, scholarship offers, what hours can you work. By the way, that's also an advantage we're coming up to in just a minute. So you lose all of that. But all right, let's say you don't care about all that. That's fine. Whatever, Heather, I don't care. I just want to pay $12,000 a year. All right, fine. Here's the real thing. You want a job when you get out? You're going to have a tough time finding one. Let's say you're a paralegal. You're working during going to law school at night. You're doing a great job. You get rave reviews. They're not going to hire you. And I'm not giving you hearsay, folks. I've seen it happen. They're not going to hire you. Does it make sense that they're willing to interview people they don't know, that they have to train from scratch after you've worked for them loyally, with a great work ethic, smart as a whip for years? Does that make any sense? It doesn't. But that's the way it is. Because this is an antiquated, backwards profession, operating on antiquated business models. It's just the way it is. You need to be prepared to deal with it until you get in a position to change it, and I hope you will. So the major advantage is the cost savings. The major disadvantage is the cost savings means you're going to have a hard time finding a job. Another disadvantage, not quite as big as the job thing, but still pretty big, is you may not be allowed to take another state bar. So if you take the state bar in Alabama after going to Birmingham School of Law, by the way, when you go to an unaccredited law school, make sure the state bar has given them the go-ahead. If they do not have the green light from your state bar, you're not taking the state bar even in that state when you finish. Okay, but let's say you finish Birmingham School of Law, you do great, you take the bar, you pass with flying colors, you practice for 10 years, but unfortunately you and your spouse are getting divorced. Your spouse has a great job offer out of state. It is in your child's best interest to stay with your spouse and for your spouse to have a good job to take care of your child. But you're going to get left behind because that state bar says, no, you didn't graduate from an accredited law school, we're not accepting you. What are you going to do then? Now, I don't know a lot of people who have tried to petition out of state. Maybe most of the time they have some success after they've been practicing for a while, I don't know. But what I can tell you is this, there's no guarantee. So is that a chance you want to take to save $30,000 a year? Maybe it is. $30,000 a year is a lot of money. Okay, so the first major value proposition is cost savings. The disadvantage of that is, one, you may not be able to find a job because you went to an unaccredited law school, and two, you may not be allowed to take other state bars. But what is the next value proposition? Well, this is also a big one, and it's that you get to keep your day job. Now, if you've seen my video on which law school should I go to or student loan debt, you can see why it would matter that you want to have the safety net. The job market is usually not great when it comes to law. It ebbs and it flows like everything else, but it's usually not great. So you need to be prepared for the fact you may not have a job when you get out. I have friends who never found a job who ended up having to work for themselves, and that's really not a great way to get started in law. You need the training of working under someone else. But this is the position they were put in. So you need to be prepared for this possibility. Maybe you can't afford to quit working, maybe you can't afford to take that chance, so you keep your day job. And in my video, Which Law School Should I Choose?, I talk about the fact that you're taking yourself off the market for 3 years. You're losing 3 years working, building your reputation with your employer, building your reputation in the market, gaining skills, climbing the corporate ladder, putting money into an IRA. And that 3 years adds up exponentially over time. So when you lose that 3 years, you lose a lot. Talk to any stay-at-home mom, and they will tell you what it means to take yourself out of the marketplace for that time period. So, being able to keep your day job is a big deal. But again, let's circle back to the disadvantage of unaccredited law schools. Because you went to an unaccredited law school, you may have to keep your day job because you can't get a job with a law firm. Now, if you're the entrepreneurial type and your plan all along is to start your own law firm, then that may be okay for you if you never plan to leave the state. But still, it is really difficult to start practicing law on your own from day one. There is so much practical information you simply cannot get in law school, and you can't get it just working a few side jobs during your second and third year. You really need to work under someone first. And certainly there are areas of law where you definitely should not venture into at all. Okay, so that is one major advantage, is you get to keep your day job. Major disadvantage is that you're going to an unaccredited law school, so you may have to keep your day job. And you're spreading out the time of study. Instead of 3 years, it's going to be 5 or 6 years. What is the problem with this? Well, when you take the state bar, you're going to study a lot of information in the bar prep course. Some of it's going to be classes you never took. You can't take everything in law school that's on the bar exam. I've tried it, it doesn't work. But even the stuff that you did study in your first year, and that's maybe 50% of the bar exam, who remembers it? I mean, if you're not into criminal law and you're not going to be a business attorney doing contracts all the time, who remembers all that stuff? I didn't, and it's almost like you're relearning it. And that's tough at 3 years. Imagine if you're doing it at year 6. So that's a major disadvantage. Now, a couple of side advantages I want to note, fringe benefits, if you will, is you have often working attorneys, practicing attorneys teaching. However, let me just say, you can get that at an accredited law school. They're called adjunct professors. It is great to have someone who is currently in the throes of the field giving you the day-to-day feedback on what it's really like and what's going on in a specific area of law. The other advantage is that it's easy to get into unaccredited law schools. If you have bad grades, you had trouble with LSAT, you can get in. But here's the thing, people who go to law school are driven and they're smart. Now, if you're driven and you're smart, you probably don't have trouble with bad grades or LSAT scores. Okay, but things happen, right? And you turn it around, but you just can't get into even the most lenient accredited law school. I understand. But be aware, unaccredited law schools take everybody. So you're going to be in with a broad range of people who are not going to be like you. They're not going to be driven. A lot of them, frankly, won't be that smart. And it's going to drive down the common denominator. My question would be, is the law school teaching down to the lowest common denominator, or are they teaching up to you? That's a big question you need to ask yourself, because when you need to learn how to think like a lawyer is in law school, not when you get out. Okay, I hope this has been helpful. If you have any comments on your experiences with interviewing unaccredited law schools or with people you've known who've gone to one, please let me know in the comments below. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for weekly updates. And until next time,